Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what happened this past week? This channel hit over 1,000 subscribers. So you know what that means. It's time to party! That's crazy. I could never expect that this channel would hit over 1,000 subscribers in under a year. We've hit over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let me not get too much caught up in the ceremony of this because, you know, with 1,000 subscribers down, now we have to get to 2,000 subscribers and then 3,000. But, you know, this is still a great, amazing landmark that we've hit. So let's just actually talk about this show because that's what you came here for anyways, right? This is episode 32 of the week of March 19th through March 25th. Awesome things to tell you about this past week in the world of JavaScript and the web. So without further ado, let's start talking about it right now. First item of the week to tell you about is that NPM.js, everybody's favorite package manager for Node, has a brand new website that is released that you can actually check out right now. If you check out the website, you can see it's nice and prettily skinned, it's new, and it is a much better experience for actually browsing NPM packages on the web. One of my favorite features about it is that when you actually go to a package, you can actually see all the list of versions that this package actually has published, which you couldn't actually do before. You'd have to actually do that through the command line. Another great thing about this is that now for all you security-minded people out there, you can actually do 2FA through the new NPM website, which is really cool. And also just peeling behind the hoods a little bit about what makes up this new website, they actually have a tweet from the creator, one of the people that are engineers working on this website about all new features, about how it's using now Webpack, React, Redux, Tachyon, CSS modules, all these new fun features to actually make it probably a much better experience to navigate to and also one that they can actually develop on and add more features down the road. So NPM.js, brand new, check it out for all your NPM needs. Cool. Also, brand new this past week, the premier library for managing all your graphic and charting needs, D3.js, released version 5.0 this past week. And the big thing about it is that there's not many big things about it. It was not a very big breaking change, which is nice, which is to show that D3 has kind of solidified on an API that is going to be held consistently and robust for time to come. The big change they did do with D3 5.0 is that now instead of having a callback method of handling asynchronous code, as you can see from this picture, you're trying to load files as CSV and then the callback gets called when the data is loaded. Now instead you can actually use a promise API for all of these asynchronous codes, which makes much more sense as the web goes forward. You can actually see a trend towards APIs using promises for these types of asynchronous codes. So that's very cool. And also very interesting underneath the hood, D3 is now using the fetch API instead of XML HTTP requests. So again, it is modernizing itself while still retaining all the features that you know and love and use day to day. So if you're using D3.js, you're using 4.0, the upgrade to 5.0 shouldn't be that bad. You can also take advantage of more async code with the promises and also async await. So very cool, D3.js 5.0, get it out now. And now let's talk to a topic that's near and dear to my heart, one that I always like to talk about, is the TC39 committee had their monthly, or I guess it's not really monthly, they had their March meeting about the specs and proposals that are trying to work on to make the language of JavaScript bigger and better and more robust. And I want to tell you about a few of the highlights that I actually found most interesting in this past TC39 meeting. One proposal that was talked about at this meeting is this proposal to add a new property on arrays to allow you to easily get the last item from an array. If you ever tried to get the last item from an array, you know that it's not the most pleasant thing to do. You have to get, the length of the array, subtract 1, then actually use that as the way to index to get the array. Whereas this proposal is just saying, actually, let's just add a new property called .lastItem, which is awesome because there's many times that I've wanted to get the last item from an array, and this will make that experience a lot easier to use. This is currently at stage 1, so it's still very experimental. I would encourage you not to use this yet. The main reason why it's stage 1 is that right now the proposal has a way to actually set the last item and also to get the last item index, and there's people on the TC39 committee that are curious why we need that and want more justification around actually adding that into the spec itself. So it's still experimental, but I like the idea of having this built into language as well, just making it easier to actually get items from an index that are in the end. Another very cool proposal that was talked about at this meeting was a slice notation proposal. And this is heavily inspired by Python. If you ever used the slice notation in Python, you can see from this graphic, you have an array of A, B, C, D. And if you want just the B and C elements, you can actually use this notation of 1:3 3. And there's other ways that you can use this. You can use 6 colon to actually get like the last, from the 6th index to the end. So it's much more robust way of actually interacting with arrays and sub-characters in strings. This is also, this has now actually advanced from stage 1. It was at stage 0 where it was very, very experimental, and now it's actually stage 1. So I'm actually excited about this one as well because it'll make it easier to actually get information from arrays when you actually do a lot of array mutations and accessions. But, you know, it's still stage 1. Experimental, don't use it yet, but still good to know that it's coming out down the pike. Also, I'm sure everyone is curious to hear that the big Smooshgate controversy, that Flat would be renamed to Smoosh, is not going to happen. It's about all the information I could glean from the notes and information online, so good to know. And last but not least, they're still talking about the pipeline operator in JavaScript, which is a way to easily compose functions around a very nice syntax for doing so, which is inspired by F#. There's actually 4 competing proposals right now for the pipeline syntax and features that you can actually build into it. I'm not going into it too in depth right now because it's a lot of things around it. There's a link to a slideshow that was actually presented at the TC30 meeting that I have in the show notes. So if you are interested, you can delve into that more. But right now you need to know that there are 4 proposals that are being competed for what the actual implementation would look like. One's the F# style proposal, a hack style, a split mix, and a smart mix, which I'm not really sure what that means, but it looks cool. You can see what it looks like here. Hello, double say, capitalize, exclaim, how you're taking the value of hello, piping it through double say, then piping it through capitalize, then piping it through exclaim to actually get the end result from there. So experimental, don't use it yet. It's only you can if you even wanted to, but interesting to know that that is coming. That's kind of the big highlight of the TC39 committee. Not much change in that way. Things are still trudging along, thinking about ways to make the language better, but I always like to see what is coming down into the language itself and let you have a heads up notice about those things. So TC39, there's more notes to the actual proposals in the show notes, so if you are interested in any of those in particular, please take a look down below to actually delve a little bit more in depth into it at your own time. But those are the 4 things I found the most interesting, so very cool. And last but not least, let's talk about the world of Apollo, which is an implementation of GraphQL. They had a nice big release this past week, version 2.1. And the big new addition of this release, because there is no breaking changes, which is always great, is that they are now using they've added the ability to have a new render prop API to the ability to create mutations. If you use GraphQL, those should sound familiar to you, but essentially they've now made it a little bit more easier to actually use GraphQL queries and GraphQL mutations, whereas before you'd have to use this high order component that you can see in the screen right here. You have GraphQL at the bottom here on line 14 where you have the profile query, and then you're actually setting some options and variables that are then passed into the profile component, whereas now you can actually use this query as just a regular component and actually be given as a render prop the actual data that you'd actually use to actually access that data for you. So very cool. Interesting. If you do use Apollo and GraphQL, it should make your code and websites easier to use after all. And so that is the end of the episode 32. Over 1,000 subscribers. So exciting. I'm so thrilled to see it. Also, I don't know if you could tell, but this video was the first one filmed in 4K. I'm trying a new camera right now, so let me know the feedback on what you think about this camera. It's a Lumix camera, Panasonic Lumix. Hopefully it looked okay. Hopefully 4K makes everything better. I have no idea, but I figured I'd try it out for the 1,000 subscriber episode as well. Stay tuned for more episodes coming up next week. If you are not already a subscriber, please do subscribe down below, and I will catch you again next week. Until then, I'll talk to you and I'll code to you. Bye.